Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wildlife Conversations. I see some of you joining us already. As you know, we record this live, and so we have audience participation at the same time. So if you are here with us, you can say hello in the chat. Tell us from where you are listening. And we're going to have a great discussion tonight. I at first want to tell you all, like I usually do, about an upcoming event. Something very exciting happened. My dad has been in the hospital, and so not a great situation, but I was sitting there and I got a message from someone who I really admire, best-selling author and award-winning photographer David Duchemin, wrote me and asked if he could be on the podcast. So he will be joining me on January 8th. And I don't want him to get lost in the hustle and bustle and emails and busyness of the holiday. So if you think about it, write a note to yourself right now and don't forget to register for his podcast. It'll be January 8th. And it's going to be really good. David has been really influential in my photography, and he actually was kind of a dream guest for me that I wanted to have. And his book, Within the Frame, is really influential to me. And then his latest book, Light, Space, and Time, right here. We're going to be discussing that with him on January 8th. And so I am super excited, and I would love for all of you to join me there with me, just to learn from him and to be supportive with me, because it's going to be a great discussion. So, and I also want to welcome my guest tonight. First, Michelle Osterhus. You all have seen her before. She helped me launch Wildlife Conversations in August, the very first episode, and we had a great discussion about owls and whales and Iceland and all kinds of things. So Michelle is going to co-host with me tonight. Go ahead and say hello to her. And then my special guest tonight, I'm so excited to welcome Traci Sepkovic. She's a Pennsylvania wildlife photographer, and I'm sure you all have seen her Instagram page, beautiful images, and we're just really excited to welcome you tonight, Traci.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay! We mentioned you a little bit in the last podcast with the Alaska Bear Camp team, Scott and Jackie, Cassie and Josh, because you were out with them this summer in Alaska, leading a Women in Wildlife, two of them, right? Two
That's
tours,
correct.
two
Back-to-back tours.
workshops. Yes. So we all saw that this summer. At least I know a lot of us did,
Yeah.
watching that interaction and just all the fun you all were having. So tell us first a little bit about that. How many people were with you? Where were you?
Wow. That was the most amazing experience. I had two groups of ladies. There were six in each group. We were based out of Kodiak, Alaska, and we had Scott, Jackie, Cassie, and Josh as our guides and advisors during that week. There were a lot of jitters with some of my ladies, for a lot of them.
I'm
That
sure.
was, that was a bucket list trip.
Yeah.
And I will say, one of my participants looked at me like square in the face and she said, "This is a bucket list trip for me." And it just resonated with me in that moment, like, wow, this is a big deal. There's a lot of responsibility here,
Yeah.
in making sure these people are comfortable and happy or having a positive experience. And
Yeah.
Scott and Jackie and their knowledge of the area and the bears really put them at ease. So we had those days in Kodiak.
Yeah.
And I think those were kind of the icebreaker days. Those were the days when, the ladies are going to get their first bear view, a lot of them they've never seen. And then that really got everybody's nerves put at ease and comfortable and ready for the float plane and the days at Katmai National
Oh,
Park.
I see. So you had both locations.
We did.
Okay. Okay.
So we were fortunate that we scheduled two Katmai days for each week's tour.
Okay.
And we weren't sure. We kind of did that because we didn't know that we would get both of those days in it because they're so weather dependent. And I
Yeah.
thought, we talked about it. We put two for each week. The weather couldn't have been better. It was absolutely incredible. We had one day with rain, and it didn't even
Oh,
rain all day. You know, it
that's
it,
great.
it was sunny. The temperature was mild, so both groups of ladies got both days in Katmai, and Scott had us there for 8-9 hours, I think.
Yeah.
each day. So it was a full day of shooting. It was a lot of action. There was a lot going on, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of holy cow, what's happening. And yeah, this photo you just shared,
Yeah.
this is us crossing the river. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my gals had concerns going in, what are we doing with waders? Why do we need waders? How deep is the water going to be? Do you
Yeah.
mean river crossings? How do we get on and off of a float plane? And we
Yeah.
had so many conversations leading up to this. And then we got here, and one of the things that, Scott said is, this isn't a death march. We're not here to work you to death. This is a good, we're going to take our time. We're going to, go with the flow. We're going to go with everyone's pace. And this is an example of how these ladies just bonded together, and we would lock arms, hold hands, take our time shuffling our feet through, do whatever we needed to get to where we were going. And
Mm-hmm.
that was just such a fulfilling and rewarding experience to be part of that. So I was really grateful to have that opportunity to lead those tours with women in wildlife photography.
Yeah, you said it set your soul on fire when we talked a lot last week.
Yeah.
I loved that phrase. Tell me a little bit about the personal growth from these trips.
I mean, these ladies came out here. For a lot of them, this is the furthest that they've traveled on their own
Mm-hmm.
without someone coming with them. They all came on their own. For a lot of them, this was a bucket list trip. Like I said, there were a lot of concerns. I think some of them, once they booked the trip, they're like, oh my God, what did I do? Brown
Yeah.
bears on the ground with them,
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of questions, and we had a lot of communication leading up to, and then you get there on the ground, and then you're with a group of these ladies with six women, and they don't know each other. So it's just amazing how quickly bonds are formed over wildlife and that common interest of photography. We're
Mm-hmm.
at a welcome dinner. Next thing you know, ladies are dancing because there's a band playing. They're
That's
locking
fun.
arms, swinging around, talking about the wildlife that they photograph in each of their local areas. And, it's just really fast.
Yeah.
People click together. But I was so proud of both of my groups at the end of the week. And I really had a hard time saying goodbye to each group, because I feel like we really bonded over, you know, challenges that they had to face that they weren't
Yeah.
sure that they could do. And then they did it. And at the
Yeah.
end of the week, I swear some of them were standing an inch taller.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
I told them
awesome.
that. I'm like, you're standing taller. You got on and off of that float
Mm-hmm.
plane,
Mm-hmm.
hiked across a river with your gear on your back,
Yep.
spent 8, 9 hours, on the ground with these bears passing you close at times.
Right. Yes.
And it was such a rewarding and uplifting experience. And it's
Yeah.
hard to describe, but it, I think it really made an impact on a lot of the ladies. And it did me too. I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
learned so much about people through
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself and things that I can do better, you
Yeah.
know. So there was definitely a lot of personal growth and that took place on those.
Michelle and I have both been to Alaska, not with Scott and Jackie, but hopefully someday. But
Must.
yes, we must.
You
And
must.
there's something about Alaska that changes you and
Really.
makes you grow and
Mhm.
face things, and the courage grows. There's something about it. Yeah. And
It's
those
a
bears.
spiritual kind of a place.
Yeah,
There's
the bears change you in that way for sure.
there's
Yeah.
something just so magical about
Yeah.
that.
I
When you
agree.
have that close interaction with a bear. It's apex predator.
Right.
And people
Right.
were like, you're crazy. You're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Well, you're
Yeah.
kind of taught all your life, like a grizzly bear or a coastal brown
Be
bear, as they're
afraid.
called
Yeah.
in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah, be afraid. Like these are
Yeah.
big animals and they'll
Yeah.
attack you. Do this and don't do that. And then you get there and you're standing right by them, 6 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever it is sometimes. And you're like, okay. And within a half hour of experiencing that, you're laying on your stomach in front of mama bear going,
Right.
hi.
And you're talking to them behind
Yes.
your camera. Aren't you gorgeous? Ooh,
Yes.
Yes.
Cute little kiddos. Aren't they cute?
crazy.
I think Michelle and I said at one point when both about our different experiences, though, we walked out and we're like, we should be doing laundry. What? We're here. We're actually here.
Yes.
It's like a
Yes.
pinch me moment. It really
is. There's something so freeing about that. I
It's
don't know
true.
what it is. There's something just you feel like I don't know. Something opens up,
It's the
and
true wild. Like you are truly in the wild.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
I think
amazing.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously you've been compelled to go all the way to Alaska and traverse rivers and stand in front of bears. But what got you there? Like, what was that moment that you're like, I'm going to grab a bunch of gear and I'm going to go out into the wild and leave myself exposed to all this amazing nature and start photographing them? Like, what got you there?
I mean, it snowballs, right?
It
I got my first DSLR, my Canon Rebel XSI, back in I think 2009, and my sister and I called it boonie cruising. We're out boonie cruising, we're seeing what we find in the landscapes and in these cool old barns and things. And I started using that to photograph my kids' sports. They both played soccer, and I had realized real fast that I don't care how advanced of a point and shoot it wasn't stopping them moving on the field. So,
Right.
I was doing, kind of the cruising around, and then I was doing the soccer games for a while, and still this next year's my last soccer game. My daughter's going to be a senior in college. So, then I would sit on my front porch and photograph the birds at my bird feeder. I love my black-capped chickadees. Whenever my feeders are low, they will let me know. They will sit in the trees and squawk at me, and I'm like, I know.
That's awesome.
So I started photographing the birds, and then one winter I went to a local park and I saw a red-headed woodpecker, and I don't know, something about that bird is just so gorgeous. So one thing leads to another, and it's birds. And then I learned that Pennsylvania has a great elk population, and I go up with my dad to our camp and I photograph the elk, and then it's foxes, and it's one thing after another, and it's addictive.
So addictive.
Yes.
It is. I think it's what puts you in line, right? It's what brings you peace, your time outside. There's nothing more
Exactly.
peaceful than that.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter how many times you photograph the same species,
So
you're
true.
always looking to either improve on a photograph that you've already taken, or
Absolutely.
get an angle or a perspective or a hunt or whatever it is.
Yep.
It just seems never to be enough. It's never enough.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's highly addictive. And
Yeah.
and so Alaska's the Mecca, right? Like
It
we all
totally
know.
is.
It's
Yes. Okay.
I'm a big proponent of shooting locally, but the idea of going somewhere that's so abundant in wildlife and that
Yeah.
is such a vast, incredible landscape has always been like a dream.
Yeah.
So
The environmentals in Alaska are just off the chain. I mean,
right. Second to none.
Yes.
Even the photography from the float plane, it was like, how this is gorgeous, even through the windows.
Yeah. I know. I took many a photograph down.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have those videos, and I still go back to those videos of the float plane,
Mhm. Yes.
because you're just like, did I really see that?
I
Did
know.
that happen?
I know.
Yeah,
Did I really fly that close to that mountain?
I know,
In
because it's
between
like
them?
right there, right?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
So
So it's
true.
just such an amazing place. I loved every minute of it. And Michelle, in her podcast with you, she had said, if I want to stay married, I got to stay here, but I would live in Alaska if I could. 100%.
Yep, 100%. I'm with you. All right,
Yeah.
in a future life.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. So what are you capturing all this awesomeness with? What kind of gear are you shooting with these days?
So right now I'm shooting an R5.
Okay.
I haven't jumped up to the R5 Mark II yet. I'm not, the R5 works for me. So I'm
the same,
always,
Traci. Yep.
yeah,
I
I'm
feel the
very
same.
hesitant to jump to the next greatest best thing.
Yeah, me too.
This works for me and I'm sticking with it for now. So
Mhm.
the R5, this year I picked up the 100 to 500 and I had the 100 to 400, which was like my baby. And I thought the 100 to 500 can't possibly be better, but it is. So I'm so
Mm.
happy I picked that up. And I have a 500 F4 and I'm thinking about selling it. So
Oh, interesting.
I'd like to
Interesting.
move to a 400 2.8,
Yeah.
you
Me
know.
too.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah.
have to sell a limb though, or
Right.
something.
A
I
lot of things.
I moved to that, and the advice that someone gave me was just see it as a savings account. And
Yes.
if you need money, it will keep its value and you just
Yeah.
can get rid of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a game changer for sure. It's just a joy to shoot.
Yeah.
It's
One of
joyful.
my ladies on my second tour had one and she had it on the R5
Mhm, mhm.
and I held her. I said, "Can I see that?" You know. So I was holding it and I'm like, this just feels so well balanced.
Yeah, that's the kiss of death. Like I rented it twice and
Yeah.
it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was over.
So I'm kind of like mini obsessed on that in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
It's there. The seed has been planted. I just need
yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
Canon R5 and 100 to 500. And what do you use for landscape?
24 to 105.
24 to
So
105. Okay.
I like the range of that one because I have a 17 to 40, which if anybody's looking to buy one, message me. I'm just not comfortable with those really wide angles. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
I don't know. I guess maybe because you're so used to holding those longer lenses, those longer
yeah.
focal lengths. So I feel like a fish out of water with that 17 to
I
40.
feel, yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. I'm not sure exactly what to do because you
Yeah.
are at that 400, 500, you're there
Yes.
so much that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's strange.
I like 100 millimeter landscapes, you
I do
know?
too. I do
I
too.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of those and been happy with them and that's my comfort zone.
Yeah,
So,
I'll use the 100 to 500 and the 70 to 200 sometimes when like I went out in the Tetons and used that.
yeah.
I know, Michelle, you're amazing at landscape. So you're probably like, girls.
I know.
It's okay.
I
I
need to
mean,
spend some time with Michelle for landscapes because I need
Yes,
some.
yes. I have a lot to learn when it comes
Yeah.
to that.
I try. And it
Yeah,
never fails. I'll go through like in the Tetons. It doesn't get any more beautiful than that,
I
right?
know.
And
I
I do all
know.
these landscapes and I come back and I'm like, I'm reviewing and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. There's just something slightly not right about every
Yeah.
single. So,
Yeah. I don't even know what's not right in mine. So, I just have so much to learn with that.
yeah.
you
Well,
are being too hard on yourself.
well, that's classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tracy, I know you have a passion for beginning photographers
I do.
as
Yeah.
well. And if people are listening that are just starting or even in the middle of their photography journey, we can always learn.
Yeah.
What are some basic tips you have for people that are starting wildlife photography or bird photography?
I think if you're new to photography, you know,
Mhm.
I'm speaking to true entry level, true beginners right now. Um, Learn your camera.
Yeah.
When I first got mine, I read this book called Understanding Exposure by Brian Peterson, and
Mhm.
that book's been around forever, but the principles all still apply. It's teaching
Okay.
you how your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO all work together to form an exposure, and
Mhm.
how changing those settings, how one thing affects the other. So
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, you need to get yourself a good knowledge and understanding of your camera.
Yeah.
I think for wildlife photographers, beginning wildlife photographers, you need to start local, get to know your local wildlife, and get to know the little parks next to you. There's always
Absolutely.
something there. And go as often as you can
Mhm.
because there are places near me that I have gone to that if I had gone once and not seen anything, which happens every time, which happens like
Right.
9 times out of 10,
Right.
if
Right.
I had abandoned that location and never gone back to it, then I would have missed something great that happened there, maybe on my fifth or sixth time.
Yeah.
So, you know, get to know your local parks, get to know what wildlife is in those parks and follow it through the seasons because it
Mhm.
changes seasonally, especially with birds. Um, so I think another important thing is have some self-awareness and learn how to move in the field. One of my big pet peeves is door slamming. When I arrive somewhere that I am going to shoot, that door is going to click quietly closed. I don't wham, slam the door shut, grab my gear and walk and proceed. Keep your voice low if you must talk. So there shouldn't be laughing, carrying on. That's all good.
Yeah.
We need to do
Yeah.
that. We need to connect, but you know, you're in their habitat. So you need to kind of flip a switch there. Think about how you are moving. If there is a trail in that park and it's gravel or crushed stone, don't walk on it. If you can, take a couple steps off the trail if it's allowed and walk in the soft, quiet grass.
Yeah.
There's that crunch, 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 crunch as you are moving into the park. Things that may have been there are not going to be there,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
And
true.
then once you get there, just be still, just be quiet. You know, the birds, they all flew away when they heard you coming. So, you
That's
know, the
right.
fox, maybe it left. But if you just sit still and be quiet and listen and watch, 10, 15 minutes later, the birds are all going to make their way back in,
Yeah, so
you
true.
know? So,
So
and
true.
I think, you know, what do you do when you get that bird in your lens? What are you going to do with it? You're going to take a couple quick shots, right? You want to get that, oh, it's there. But once you get a couple photos, make sure you're checking your exposure. Look at the back of your camera, see what it looks like. Look beyond your subject. What is behind it? Is
Mhm.
there a busy shrub or a tree or bush, or there's sticks coming up out of the back of that bird's head, you
Yep.
know? Would a step right or left make a big difference in your composition?
Yes.
Would a different
That's true.
perspective, if I go lower, can I get some nice foliage in the foreground that frames it in a pretty way?
Yep.
Or should I stand up higher because something's blocking the eye, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, just a little bit awareness and always kind of, I say practice the pause. That's my big, you know, practice the pause. Pause to think about, what am I doing right now? How am I affecting my subject?
Mm,
How am I moving into its environment? When I'm looking at that subject, pause. What can I do differently? Can I do something differently? You know, a lot of times if you change your position, the light is going to change dramatically. You
it's
get that
true.
nice side light or backlight. So,
Yeah.
you know, those are all, you know, just little things I try and be mindful of whenever I'm out.
That is all so good. Michelle and I talked about this in the first episode, those local areas that you get to know and how going daily, you start learning the sounds and sights and homes and
Yeah.
little the holes in the trees and things like that that you never noticed before running through there with your kids or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's
It's
just so
different.
different. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you just get to know that place and people going by don't even know these amazing things are happening in this
I
small
know.
little park near your home, you know, so it's so cool. But I haven't ever thought about the door slamming. I don't think I slam my door, but I will think about it differently now.
Listen, you'll notice if other people do it now too.
Yes, that's so
Because
true.
because if you show up at a location and all you hear in the background is slam, 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 slam,
Oh, it's
you're
so
like, oh
true.
my God, you could watch, you know, if you're owls or whatever, deer, elk, whatever,
Yeah.
they notice that
That's
because
so true.
this is their house, you know? So if you
Yeah.
had a loud noise in your house that wasn't from within your house, you're going to recognize that as
Yeah.
something that, you know, maybe doesn't belong or is different.
Yeah, that's a good pointer for me because I think if I see an animal or bird, that's when the door is quiet.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
if I'm just getting out of my car, I'm not sure I'm as mindful about it in the parking lot.
Yeah. It's the
I
one
should
you
be.
don't see that could be out there that, you
Yeah,
know.
it's so true. It's so true.
Well,
They're
and I would
watching you.
add, if you're in the car with, you know, a lot of the time I have a friend or two with
Yeah.
me, or there's a bunch
Yes.
of us meeting at a location.
Yes.
I would add single file to the destination because
Absolutely.
when wildlife sees you, they don't want to see five humans coming. They
Yes.
won't see five humans coming if you're single file and you're all behind each other. You don't look nearly as intimidating when you look as if you're one approaching as opposed to
Mhm.
a wall approaching.
Right.
That's
Right. The
excellent.
opposite of Alaska.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
That's an excellent point. I like
Yeah.
that.
Michelle,
Yeah.
did you have any other beginner tips? You're always good at beginner tips too. Did you have any things to add?
Well, a couple of things that I did that you guys are all probably going to think are a little nuts, but I'm okay with it. Someone told me, and so I did it, is I would throw on some hockey games on my large screen TV, and I would sit with my camera and I would follow that puck. Like follow as much as I could because the puck is going everywhere. And that's what birds do.
I've done it.
They're everywhere, right?
You have,
So
You said that.
I tracked the puck to learn what was the best focus for me. Like, is it
oh
zone
my
focus? Is
gosh,
it
I've
small
never
focus?
heard this.
So I
It
would
wasn't a
sit
puck
there
for me. It
and,
wasn't a
like,
puck. It was a wildlife documentary. And it was a
Okay.
wildlife documentary on
Yep.
barn owls. And they were showing this barn owl flying, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, I'm just sitting there firing away. And my husband is like, you are nuts.
Yeah, no. Like you've got to do what you got to do because
What
when
the
you
heck?
when you get out into the field,
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but my heart is racing. I
Yes.
Yeah.
cannot control my breath because I'm so excited and
Yes.
so I got to know what I'm doing. So the other thing that I did many times is when I get my gear, my new gear, and I get all the settings set up the way I want to, I go sit in the dark and I say, okay, an owl just arrived. It's dark out. An owl just arrived. It's light out. It's astrophotography time. Okay, I got to click this, and this. I got to get this on a tripod, off a tripod. I got to raise my tripod, lower my tripod. Did it all in the dark.
Oh,
Every bit.
That's
wow.
awesome.
So I
Wow.
never have
Boot
to
camp.
really
That
look
is
at my camera.
photography boot camp.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you got to know your camera that well because
so
when you
true.
get out there, you're excited, you're just in the moment. But if muscle memory kicks in, I mean, you're golden because you know where everything is. You're not going, okay, so the owl just flew. You're like, okay, yeah, it flew. It's gone. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
moment
Bye-bye.
missed.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I think
So-
Steve and I talked about that too. We talked about that muscle memory being so important. And then also you've already set the foundation of some of those questions going through your head and those actions like moving your feet, Traci, like you were talking about and things like that, that it becomes just second nature muscle memory. It's so important. I have not done that in a dark room, but I
Yeah, that's
have
a
new
first.
things to do now this
You're
winter.
going to be watching hockey and Dan's going to be like, what are you doing watching hockey with your camera?
I
You're like,
never
I'm
ever
just
watched.
chasing the puck. Michelle told me to chase the puck.
I love it. That's great for tracking because they fly.
They
Yes.
it's just like it's fast and it's little. So you
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's so
focus
true.
constantly.
That's so
We all have
true.
big enough
That's like
TVs now.
warbler
Nobody's watching
training,
TV on a 12-inch TV, like
Yeah.
everybody's got big TVs in their living room. So
Oh, goodness. Well, we talked a little bit, Michelle, about you were going to ask her about shooting local. Did you want to add to that? To add a local question?
well, I mean, do you have a favorite hotspot? And if you do, why did it become your favorite hotspot? Like
Yeah.
what is it about that location that just keeps drawing you back for more and more?
Or you can give us a general if you wanted.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
if you
a
want to share your
couple.
secrets.
Yeah. I have a couple that are, I think that you have those spots that are within like 5, 10, 15 minutes of your house that you can
Mhm.
go to before work or in the evening. You can go
Mhm.
multiple times on the weekend, you can shoot out there in the morning or the evening and get multiple times a day. So I have those spots. And then I have my 45-minute to an hour spots where maybe, just this past weekend, I hit one of those spots and my daughter and I got up early and we got down there early. We spent the whole day shooting, midday we did some lunch and shopping and things. And then in the evening, we went to a different, location down there. So those are your 45-minute to an hour spots that you're going to spend all day at. And then you have your 3-hour, I have my 3-hour from me where I'm going to go. And this is something that ideally I will have a full weekend, right? So ideally I'll have a whole weekend to spend there and really explore the area. So I have a couple of those. I've done the 3-hour spot up and back in one day. I think Michelle, you've talked about doing the same thing where that
Yeah.
alarm goes off at 2 a.m. and
Yep.
you stumble out the door and then you drive and you get there by 6 a.m. And
Mhm.
then, I've done that and I've been fogged out and not taken a single shot
Oh,
Oh,
right?
and then turn around and driven back home like, oh my God, what did I just do? But
yeah, yeah. There's that
gotta go
addiction
back.
again. It's the
Yeah.
addiction.
You got to go
Can't
back
help
and
it.
do it again.
Yeah,
It's,
can't help it.
yeah.
What is your favorite thing to shoot locally in those spots? What like species or?
So seasonally, I would say spring, I have some warbler locations that I like.
Yes.
And those are always a challenge and provoke a lot of swear words. And then,
Yes.
and then, further north, I love elk. I love photographing the elk.
Yeah, that's right. You have elk in Pennsylvania. That's so cool.
Pennsylvania has a very healthy elk population.
Yeah.
We're actually,
I hope you have a guest room.
yeah.
Yeah, because we're coming.
Please, I would love it. So I go up for elk as often as I can,
That's
and
amazing.
I want to explore that outside of rut season a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quieter,
And the babies are cute.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the spots and their little faces.
Oh, they're so darling, running
Yeah.
after their mothers, and yeah,
Yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah.
Love
And then
that.
owls, I have some spots, and that's always a search that is continuing. Like Eastern screech owls, that was something that
Yes.
I think I've put a lot of time into finding that I've been successful, like maybe 2 or 3 times, but you walk through parks like a crazy person, standing up all the trees, investigating every little cavity,
Yeah.
and doing it at different times of day. And there's something so rewarding about when you're doing scouting on your own and you find something.
Yes, yes,
Right.
that's true.
When
Right.
you put that time in yourself, and I feel like I've put a lot of time into scouting that, 9.5 times out of 10 doesn't yield anything, but those
Right.
few handful of times whenever you find something yourself, it just, I don't know, there's something special about
Yeah, the
that.
reward is so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have an Eastern screech that lives right off the path here in West Lafayette. If you'd like to come meet her, her name is Ruby.
Oh, Ruby, that's a
She's a
perfect
red morph and she's darling. Everyone in Indiana has taken a picture of her, but she is darling. And sometimes her boyfriend, the gray morph, Gary, will come and be in her cavity.
Gary the gray
That's what
morph.
everybody
I
calls him.
love
So
that.
Gary Ball from Indiana is saying, "We love Ruby." And
Very
Scott
good.
Stone is saying, "Traci, tell us all of your secret owl spots."
Of course he is. Yeah.
Well, you do have a cool video on your website of a gray and a red. Like they're having a conversation on a limb or something.
Listen, that was one of those moments where I didn't know that happened. So
Mhm.
it was, my husband was fishing, and I was just, I don't know, I had my camera and I was photographing cardinals and white-throated sparrows that were adjacent to the pond. And it's just like a whatever evening, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching through, it's getting dark, and I'm watching through my lens, and it's getting dark, and I see this flash of a wing that's a bigger wing. It's not like, I'm like, what the heck was that? And I move my camera around and I'm like looking, and I'm like, oh my God, that is a screech owl, right? What? So I move my camera and I'm like, okay, it's dark. My ISO's like
Yeah.
way high. And
Yeah.
and I love low light photography, but this was just too low, right?
Right.
But I put video on. Amazingly, that Canon, I love it.
Yep.
Found
It'll do it. Yeah.
it. It was
Yep.
amazing. So, I did a little video and I knew the owl flew off. And then it's dark. We packed up, we went home. And I was kind of just going through looking for that video. And when I'm watching it, that other owl flew in. I had no idea
Oh,
that happened. Like, how
that's so fun.
crazy is that?
That's
I
so
had
fun.
no idea this other owl flew in, and then the first one kind of like boop, kind of jumped up a little bit, and then they both just kind of whoop whoop dipped off, gone.
Oh, that's so
And
fun.
it was so dark though. When I was there, I didn't see that second owl. So
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And people can find that on your website.
it's on
on
my
Insta.
Instagram page. I think
Oh,
I
Instagram.
our
Okay.
Instagram.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think I got fancy. I made a reel.
Ooh. Well, one of the things you really love to shoot in is fog or nasty weather.
Yes.
So we have some fog photos, and you can talk about those, but tell little people a little bit how to shoot in fog. Give them do you have tips for shooting in the fog?
Fog is I love it. It's my favorite weather condition. I always say it's the filter that money can't buy, right?
Yeah.
So you can't recreate fog with any, Lightroom or whatever. So, it's hard. It can be hard to acquire focus in the fog. And so you need to be familiar with your manual focusing. You might need to adjust your manual focus ring a couple of times, and then your camera it'll probably catch it once it finds that contrast edge between your subject and the lighter background.
Yeah.
And fog is great. It can be bad. It can be just too heavy. And that happened to me when I was saying about the day that I did the 3 hours up and 3 hours back.
Yeah.
I got there and it was thick and it just got worse. And you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So that's not the good fog.
Right.
The good fog is whenever
Good fog
can,
and bad fog. I love it.
the good,
Yeah.
the good fog is when you can actually see a shape. And I think
True.
that's important. And then
True.
a couple of people have asked about how do you edit a foggy image? And I think the best way is to just not mess with it. I think when I'm shooting in fog, I do overexpose by maybe 2/3 to 1 stop.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
So it's not too murky. I like
Mhm.
to have a little bit of brightness and in
Yeah.
the whites of the fog.
Yeah.
And then I think the inclination in editing is often to start adjusting your blacks or your dehaze filter.
Yes.
And it looks like you did if you did too much, and you kind of erase that mysterious feel if you do too much of it. So I think maybe a tiny bit of blacks, a tiny bit of dehaze, or maybe contrast instead of one of those. And I might do a slight temperature adjustment based on, was it a cool morning, make it a little cool to match that, or was it one of those super awesome mornings where it's just light fog and then the sun filters through
Yeah. Oh,
and the
pretty.
fog
Yeah.
holds that warm light. I just
Yes. Oh,
love it.
beautiful. Beautiful. We
Love it.
talked about that too on the podcast. Like, how did it feel and how do you want to make it feel in your
Yeah.
image post-processing? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious. Are you like, where are you in this image? Are you laying down in this field? Were you in a car? Because it's kind of really got this cool leading up to this outback there. And I'm just like trying to figure out where you were in that image. Were you laying down or hiding
Huh?
from this little guy, or
No,
how did it
just
kind
standing
of
there.
unfold?
I
Just
was
standing there. All right.
So it was rut season, and during rut season, I do always try and stay close to my vehicle, somewhat close, especially when there's fog and you just can't see real well what may or may not be coming. So I was set up next to my vehicle with my tripod. And because these a lot of times might be like 1/15 of a second, or 1/30th, 1/40th, somewhere in that range, where I'm just kind of, I like to push the settings a little bit to see how low can you go sometimes. And so the tripod's necessary.
That's gorgeous. And the front is all blurred out. So cool.
I
That's
love it.
really good. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to try to bring up another fog image. I think that maybe it might take me a moment because let's see, it's the screen share. Oh, here, I've got him. Let's do an owl because we were just talking about owls. The screen share sometimes is tricky. Let's go. Come on. There we go.
Oh,
We got a
that's my
shorty.
favorite tree. Yeah.
It's so clean and simple, but yet you get the chaos of where that owl was and then the beautiful perch.
Yeah. I think, this is just this dead old tree in the middle of this field where, where sometimes get short-eared owls. And this, I think, was right after I got my R5. I know it was in like a February time, and of course the forecast says yuck weather, so I'm like all excited.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Let's get it. Let's go. So, you're just kind of out there squinting behind the wheel, trying to see something. And I always check that tree, because that tree, I've seen gorgeous red-tailed hawks, northern harriers, American kestrels, and then this time this short-eared owl perched here, and I just pulled off the road and Yeah, it just hung out there. So it's I don't know, it's a special tree. It's a little bit chaotic, but there's some, I don't know, it's kind of organized chaos, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's beautiful. Let's do one more of your fog images. Let's see. This one. We've got a lot of them. They're
And
so
I think I'm
pretty.
learning that I need to not write off fog. I mean, look at this with the loon. Are you kidding me? So are you in a
Beautiful.
kayak, a boat, like laying over swimming?
Kayak.
Like what you
Yeah.
doing?
Oh,
Kayak.
cool.
So we rented a waterfront cabin up in Maine, and we took our kayaks. I love my kayak. I love doing photography from it. And it was cool because we got there. And of course, it's a 14-hour drive for us. And with like a family of 4 and a dog in the car, everybody's like, get me out of here. So
Right,
we
right.
so we go down to the water and we're just kind of sitting there taking in the scenery, like, wow, we're gonna spend a week here. This is awesome. 2 loons float right off the end of the dock. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing all week. You know?
Bye,
So
kids.
yeah, yeah. But so well, it works out well though, because in the summer, you know that sun comes up at like a really painful time. You gotta
Right.
be out. It was in the kayak. It was easy though. I just
How
walked into the
gorgeous.
dock from where we stayed,
Yeah.
popped in by 5 a.m. and nobody in my house is up at 5 a.m.
Right,
No,
right.
nobody's up. And I go out and I start paddling, and this was kind of a sad year for the loons in this area of Maine.
Hmm.
That year they had rain for, I want to say, 27 consecutive days during the nesting season. Maine
Oh
does
dear.
not do floating nests like I think Minnesota might, New York might. They don't do that. And all of the nests flooded. So
That's
there,
bad.
so I was there, I think the week of around July 8th, and there should have been babies. There were no babies. And you would see the adults gathered, 5, 6, 8 of them together floating, when normally that would be when they're out with the babies on their backs
Yep.
and they're
Right.
feeding. So, when you hear those calls coming through the fog, it felt a little extra mournful that year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was just cool because you're just paddling along, and then that shape kind of comes and comes through the fog, and
Yeah.
uh, it's peaceful. It's a peaceful
So
moment.
this might be well, this is just a question totally I don't know. So I've thought about being in a kayak, but I'm very clumsy. So
Mhm.
the price of my gear starts.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure you're not getting your gear wet and everything?
So my gear's all insured.
Yes, of
Everything
course.
is
Yes, yes,
everything is scheduled.
yes,
When I decided I wanted to get a kayak and get on the water to kind of try and get more intimate looks at
yes,
wildlife,
yes.
I went to my local outfitter and I said, I'm a wildlife photographer. I need the most stable kayak that you
Okay.
have. And she
Yep.
said, there's only one. The
Oh,
wilderness,
wow.
she said the Wilderness Systems Pungo 120. The hull design is AW. And
Okay.
she said, you can lean way over. This thing is not gonna roll on you. She said it's actually hard to roll that kayak.
Okay, that's good to know.
And the other important thing about that kayak, it tracks so straight.
Okay.
I can very easily manage my gear. I have my paddle laid across in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I just do tiny little movements with my paddle.
Yep.
I can let go and it's going to maintain its course and drift. So I can kind of, if I see something, do like 2 or 3 very small strokes with the paddle. I'm going to move, like just glide very slowly through the water. And I don't have to worry. We have several kayaks, and I've used one of the other ones that's not mine
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is just all over the place. It's too
Oh, wow.
responsive.
Okay.
It's too responsive to your paddle, where you take a little stroke on the right side and you just shoot left. And I'm like, I could
I'm
never
sure
see them.
that's what I've been in. Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, how do people do this?
Yeah.
You know?
Look on your marketplace for a Wilderness Systems Pungo 120.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing, I keep my gear on my lap. I keep a towel over my lap over the gear, like a beach towel, because some water will drip in off your
They
paddle.
will.
You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
put
yeah.
you can put a rain cover on if you
Okay.
want,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty confident in that kayak. I do keep a dry bag at my feet.
I was going to ask. Yes.
One of those sea lion bags where,
Uh-huh.
because I've kayaked on the river
Mm-hmm.
and we've come up to some sections with maybe a little bit of a drop or some
Right.
rocks, and I'll lock it down in the dry bag.
Yeah. Okay. That is good. I didn't know we were going to talk about that tonight, but that makes me feel
Here we
so
are.
much more confident in it.
You'll
Yeah.
love it. It's a
Yeah.
game changer.
Yeah, because I do love a kayak, but I don't have, I just don't have enough experience. And when I've been in them, I'm like, this is not stable. I don't see how people are doing
That's
this, but
why.
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in times when photography, you get in a slump, do you have things that pull you out of that slump, or how get you out of a creative slump, Traci? How do you get out of that?
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a slump a couple times. I'm maybe kind of in a little bit of a slump now. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard not to be in a slump when you come back from Alaska, because everything else just seems so lame.
So true. So true. Yes.
But I love studying other genres of photography.
Mm-hmm.
I love street photography. I love landscapes. I love macros, portraits, some beautiful portrait work out there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always studying other genres of photography. I love to read. A lot of my reading is wildlife books,
Yeah.
and so that always can get me excited to maybe get back out or try something.
Yeah.
And I also started doing some watercolor painting.
Oh, that's cool.
I suck at it. I don't care.
But that's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
great, but
Yeah.
but you know what? I'm making my Bob Ross happy little accidents all over
That's
the paper
right.
now.
That's right.
So it's
Mhm.
you're just watching how the water and the paint are flowing on the paper and what
It
happens.
just feels good to be artistic
It
sometimes.
does. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have other creative outlets, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Have another creative outlet, and I want to say too, it's okay to be in a rut. That's part of the process.
Yeah,
It is.
it
Agreed.
is. I'm learning that. Yeah.
Yeah, so don't beat yourself up over it if you're in a
Yeah.
rut. Just kind of embrace it and see it as a season in your process when you're just gonna walk away and maybe come back fresh with fresh eyes for it later.
That's
So
right.
it's okay to be in a rut.
Yeah. And
Well,
sometimes it might be just doing another artistic thing or taking a break, and it's okay.
And that's how I found watercolors.
Oh, that's so fun.
I kind of had this, you have that desire, that urge to create, to do something. And
Yeah.
thank you, Instagram Reels, for me going down that rabbit hole of watching all these watercolor artists.
They're great. Those people are intimidating. I try to make the little flower and it's a blob.
I make
But
a
it's a
lot of
pretty
blobs.
color.
It is. It's pretty. And I make a lot of blobs, and
Yeah.
Well, and something I also like to do when I get in a little bit of a slump too is put together a calendar. Like, what are my
Oh,
options in
that's a
January?
good idea.
What are my options in February? I get in the summer and there's a summer slump for us in Minnesota. Like, what do you
yes,
do
here
in
too.
July and August?
Yeah.
And
too.
so in July I've started photographing mushroom. And
Oh, yes,
I
that's right.
love
Those are so
mushrooms.
cute.
yeah,
Yes.
so like there's got to be something I can
I
go
love it.
photograph.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe we'll
fun.
experiment with fireworks
Yeah.
over a dock or over a city landscape. So
Yeah.
put together a calendar and get yourself excited about what you might do that's different than you've done before based on what's available to you that time of year.
Yeah. That's
like
really
that.
cool. That's a good tip too, Michelle. Well, everyone, if you have questions for Traci, you can enter them in the Q&A box right now or in the chat, and we'll see those. Let us know your questions for Traci. If you have a question for Michelle or for me, you can ask that too. This is a audience participation podcast, so we'd love to hear from you guys. I see you all in the chat. It's a really fun group of people. So go ahead and just ask some questions. What are you thinking about? What do you want to ask Traci? So let's hear from you too. We don't want to just be the only ones talking. We want to hear from you too. And then Michelle, did you have a question for Traci?
Yeah, while we're waiting for some of those questions to kind of come through and you can kind of filter through those, Jen, I was going to ask Traci, you know, we have to stay humble in wildlife photography and be so respectful both to the people that are also in our presence, but also the wildlife that's in our presence. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about how you do that when you're out in the field with people and animal and nature alike?
I think for me, humility, I think is everything. When you go out in nature, like I said, you're a guest in their house, and you need to behave with respect, you know? We're out there with our cameras and we're excited and we want to see something cool, right? But don't let that desire to see something cool impact the wildlife in a negative way. Well, maybe, if it's it's easy. I've done it. I've gotten excited and I've followed it. And now it flies over here and I want to go over there and I want to see it. And then this is back when I first started shooting, and then a friend of mine was like, if you just stay in one place. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so I think there needs to be that moment where you kind of realize what you're doing and how, because everything we're photographing is trying to survive. Everything they do is survival based in some way. So it's cool we get to see it. But I think that just, I don't know, I feel like when I'm out and I'm watching whatever it is, if it's a song sparrow feeding on, a seed head, or if it's a bear or a fox or whatever, in those moments, do you ever just feel like, wow, I'm small? Like you're just so small in this world and it's so much bigger than just me in it. There, it's just, so you just, I don't know. I think that a little bit of humility goes a long way. And how you treat other people, just be kind, just be nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
takes
so
too
true.
much. It takes too much energy to not be. So
yeah. When I was in the Tetons in the fall, I saw people walking out into the middle, and the Tetons is different than other rut places. Like they are very skittish and hunted, and so they run and get in those trees as quickly as possible. So when you see them out, it's exciting to like just see them out. But saw people walking out into the middle of the field, walking and standing in the middle of two bulls who wanted to rut, who wanted to fight, and they were just walking out in the middle of the field. And it's like, this is not ethical. It's not correct. You are interrupting behavior. And so, I think you're so right. We have, it's their home. And we have to be respectful.
Key too, pay attention to their behavior. What are they doing? Like, don't get so caught up in, and it's easy. I'm not, everybody who shoots wildlife has done it at some point where you've gotten too close and something flew or something took off. But it's what you do with that. Like build a database. What was that owl doing right before it flew? Did it start nervously looking left to right? Did it make itself skinny? If a raptor is gonna poo before it flies, did it do that? And so, did the moose pin its ears back? So I think learning behavior and being a true observer of what you're photographing is so important.
Yeah. Scott and Jackie ask you, this is always a hard one, but what would one or two of your top bucket list animals of places be? Bucket list animal of places be. Maybe it's bucket list animal or places be.
Well, one of them I'm doing with them in 26, which is Churchill.
Ooh, that's exciting.
For polar bears.
Oh, that's fun.
When is this happening?
Yeah, when is this happening? Scott and Jackie, when is this happening?
It's in November. So that has been like, well, I just, so that's happening, and I still can't believe that's happening.
Yeah, that will be amazing. That will be amazing.
Another bucket list was the brown bears, and we did that this summer.
Yeah.
I'm a northern species person. I don't like to be hot. So I am not, my internal compass points north.
Mhm.
I want to go up to Maine.
100%
Yeah, I want to go up to all these
old places.
Yeah.
cold, uncomfortable places.
Yes, I'm
Right?
with you. I love
Yeah.
it. All the
Yes,
Arctic, the
yes,
Arctic fox,
all
the
that.
the polar bears, the
Yeah,
everything cold. Yes.
all those things. I
100%.
would love to see Arctic fox. I would love to see wolves. I would love to
Mhm,
see
mhm.
lynx. Those are things I've not seen, that I think would just be just so freaking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Trish Hennessy wants to know if you handhold your 400.
Yeah. 500. Didn't get the 400
500. Okay. Okay.
yet.
500. Yep.
I have,
Yeah.
I have it, and but I'm not a big tripod person, but if you're somewhere where you're going to be watching something for a while when you're going to stay in one place,
Yeah.
I do like to be set up on a tripod because,
Okay.
if you get fatigued holding and waiting, even if you're just holding it to your side or whatever, um, you're not at the ready. I like to be set up on a tripod if I'm staying in one spot, and I like to constantly be checking my settings as I'm set up there, the lights changing, or like, especially you're doing something like short-eared owls, they don't come out until shortly before dark. So
Right. Right.
that light is dropping off fast.
Right. Right.
So I'm on a
Tripod is a
tripod.
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
constantly checking my settings and my exposure as
Yeah.
the light conditions are changing. So
Yeah. I do handhold my 400 some, but also use a monopod. It's just heavy.
yeah, it
Sometimes
is.
heavy. If you're waiting for that gesture or that action, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because you'll relax your arm right about the time that they do
I
something.
know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And that time, that split second, something starts to happen that you can
Always.
raise your lens,
Yep.
gone.
Always. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
We
Um, let's
we
see.
have Leanne asking
Go
about
ahead, Michelle.
finding, yeah, so we have Leanne asking where else might you find elk in Pennsylvania? She's looking to find elk maybe in not such crowded places. Apparently, she's familiar with the ones that are in the Great Smoky National Park area
Yep.
and Western North Carolina, but she's looking for maybe less crowded areas to find them.
Yeah. Leanne
Yeah.
Green has beautiful elk photography.
Yeah, it's become crowded in Pennsylvania too. So
Yeah. Okay.
it has, but I photographed the elk in North Carolina as well. And they're just different. I like the Pennsylvania elk. There's the difference in the size of them. The elk we have in Pennsylvania, and I don't know the history behind the elk down in North Carolina, but the elk in Pennsylvania, our population was wiped out in the late 1800s, and we had elk from Yellowstone trained out to Pennsylvania by
That's
train.
right. That's
So
right. I
we
remember
have,
reading that.
yeah, so we have the Yellowstone, I think it's the Roosevelt herd.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, but I didn't get that wrong. But yeah, so
So
we
interesting.
we have some big bulls, and
Nice.
I love them.
That's nice.
But it is, I will say it is crowded, and it's gotten more crowded. It's just
The rut situation is getting crowded. Very
yeah.
crowded.
Mhm.
Jenny Cannon says, hi, Tracy. This has been so great listening tonight. Can you tell
Oh.
me something that you would recommend people bring and also not bring on an Alaska photography tour? I had such a hard time packing light and eliminating gear, especially having never been to Alaska. And then she's got a couple more questions after that, but
Okay.
bringing and not bringing.
So I never touched my 500 or my tripod. I never touched either of them.
Yeah.
My 500 I buried in the bottom of my suitcase in my hotel room, and I never took it out once.
Yeah.
So I shot with my 24 to 1 and 5 and my 100 to 500 the entire time.
Yeah.
And that is where I started thinking, maybe I sell this. But I do, it's my baby. It's been my baby for years. So I think next time I probably won't take it. I'll stick with the one, and that saves a lot of weight and a lot of finagling through the airports.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
you know,
Yep.
so I think a nice range. A lot of people did the 70 to 200. I know Scott highly recommends that one for the bear viewing at Katmai.
Yeah.
70 to 200, 24 to 105, 100 to 500, 100 to 400, you know, lenses in that range. They all seem to work really well. I
Yeah.
did Cassie shoots a 400 and she used that. And like I said, one of my ladies had a 400 that they were happy they had that with them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to dissuade anyone from taking
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And she says, what is your favorite species that you have photographed?
Mm.
How do you pick?
Jeez. So
Maybe pick a
couple,
moment, like a
Yeah.
transformative moment, like that moment where you're like, this is my animal.
like great gray owls and
Mhm.
bears. So like great owls. I remember the first time I found one on my own in Minnesota outside the bog. Nobody was
Yeah.
around.
Ooh,
It was boony cruising, I'm telling you.
I've never heard this term, but I know it now.
I know,
Boony
I
cruising.
haven't either. I love
Boony cruising's fun. Just get out and just no plan and just go. And that's,
Yeah.
we it's, it's when you veer off the paved road, when the paved road ends, the good things happen. And that's what we did. And there was this great gray owl perched in the middle of this field and it had its back to us.
Oh,
Um, we pulled over and I stepped out and I sunk in a snowdrift that was way deeper than was way deeper than I knew. I was like mid-thigh. It
what
was
happened.
Minnesota winter snowdrift. Man, did I learn a lesson. But whenever I made the crunch into the snowdrift, that owl its head just whipped around and those eyes are so piercing
mhm.
and they just locked in. And you're like, I think it takes your breath away. You're like,
Yeah. 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 I think so
you know,
too.
and bears. I love bears. My daughter and I photograph the black bears down south every spring.
Mhm.
And I love watching them. And then photographing the brown bears in Alaska too was
Yeah.
just, and then and out in the Tetons. So I think bears and owls are just,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Shauna asked, how do you feel about photography contests and which ones do you enter and why do you choose them?
I don't. So I'm not a contest person. I'm probably one of the least competitive people out there because maybe with myself, but I did it a couple times and I got so stressed out by file sizes and all the requirements for submitting and I would compile a folder and I would start moving images and I would start culling the images of what I wanted to enter and then I just worked myself into a circle to where I just said, yeah, I'm not doing this. So
Yeah.
I appreciate them. I love seeing the photos that are entered and win. But it's just not for me at this
Yeah.
point.
I love that you said that when in your questionnaire that I sent you. You're like, I'm not worried about contests or being published. You just love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and again, huge respect for the people who put themselves out there because
Mhm.
I feel like even when you just share a photo on social media, you're sharing a piece of yourself,
Oh,
right?
totally. Yes, I agree.
So
Mhm.
you just shared a piece of yourself with that photo.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I've talked to quite a few photographers actually lately who are struggling because, Instagram and algorithms and things like
Yeah.
that have limited their visibility.
Yep.
And so when you throw something out there that you feel connected to, and then maybe it's not received well,
Yeah.
It's hard.
it's
It is
hard.
hard. It's
It is hard.
unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah. So I say that, to all those who do enter wildlife contests, kudos to you for just being confident and putting yourself out there. I think
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah. But you do sell a lot of prints. Like we have someone on here, Cynthia, that she says, I have the fortune of a Traci Foggy Owl original on my wall. So that's really fun.
He
Love
does.
that. When I read that, I love that.
I know. I love that. It's an honor. It really is an honor when someone wants your piece of your work. It's
It
just,
is.
it feels like such an honor.
It is. And
Yeah.
she has one of my short-eared owls on the cannon at the battlefield of Gettysburg.
That's one of my
Oh,
favorite
that's
pictures of
cool.
yours. When I
It's
went through your Instagram feed, I kept coming back to that picture
Oh,
because
I
I'm
wish
like,
I had that up. I don't have that
"Hey,
ready.
nature and
Everyone needs to look
everything."
for that. That's so fun.
it's
Um,
different.
Shauna asked, have you had a mentor? Are there one or two specific photographers that inspire you?
Wow. So there's just a lot of people like that you just chat with that um have an influence on you that
Mhm.
maybe, when you're newer and you're starting that they kind of helped you out, so there, just been people along the way there. And there's so many amazing photographers out there. I can scroll through Instagram or Flickr, Facebook, whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, wow, wow,
I know. Yeah.
that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So,
I've
uh,
had friends who are sitting next to me, like on a plane or just like on a, I don't know, and I'll be scrolling through my Instagram and they're like, wow, your Instagram feed is amazing. Like, how did you get it that way? It's like, I only follow wildlife photographers on
yeah,
this account.
yeah,
That's why it's beautiful and it's
yeah,
peace. And that's all I want is this
it is.
beautiful work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's always those people. And I think Lydia touched on this in her podcast with you.
Yes.
You
Yes.
said we all have something to give or to learn
Yes.
from other photographers, right?
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
think when she said that, I was like, yes, she's spot
It's
on with
so
that.
true. She said, it
We're
doesn't
never,
matter if you've just started, I have something to learn from you because
yeah,
it's your story. Yeah.
yeah,
It's your
yeah. And
perspective.
there's people who've, maybe they have a better way of organizing their photos or an editing technique, which is
Yeah.
why I need to tune into Steve's Lightroom editing
Yes, you can do
from
that.
from Sunday, because they're, and I'm always trying to learn or pick something up because
Yes.
there's just infinite possibilities out there,
And that's
right?
one of the things he said is I'm doing this for everyone, but there's a million ways you can do it.
There
So
are.
There
it's
is.
so true. So you can always learn from people. Yep.
And that's where you put your signature on your work.
Right.
It's how you edit, because
Yeah.
everybody sees a scene differently. And I think that's something Michelle talked about too, was how cool is it when you are
That's
standing
true.
with 3 or 4 friends and you're all shooting the same scene. And Michelle, you said then people start sharing their photos and you see how they
Yeah,
interpreted the exact same scene.
Yeah.
yeah.
And if
So
there's
So
much
4
true.
fun.
people, all 4 images are probably going to be different.
Yeah. It's very true.
Mhm.
Michelle, do you want to ask our last question? Or maybe we can get
Yes,
one more, but
we do. So Lavin Minsukani asked a couple of questions. First of all, he wanted to know what your favorite international destination is for birds and wildlife. And then he followed it up asking you specifically about your favorite warbler.
Oh man.
He's
there's a
gotten to be
lot
a
of
bird
them.
guy. Lavin's
Uh,
a friend of mine and he's gotten to be a bird guy. He even so much as his handle is bird guy on one of the chat groups.
Oh, cool.
So, he
That's
goes by
cool.
owl guy on his license plate and bird guy.
Oh,
And he's
that's fun.
Oh, he's
so,
living it.
He
oh yeah.
is.
He's living it. Um, I think that international bird destination, I have been talking to D Webb and I would love to get down to Costa Rica,
Mhm.
to do some birding in Costa Rica. Um, the birds of paradise, when they're doing their fancy dance.
Yes. So funny.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see that. I think, Ecuador, I think is supposed to be a good location for that. So I think that would be cool. But like I said, I don't like to be hot.
I was gonna say. I was gonna
You're gonna
say.
have to go to Costa Rica in like January or February. It's the
Yes.
shoulder season for them. So
Yes.
it's still 70, but it's not like 170. Okay, so that's great. But it's the rainforest. It's gonna
Yeah.
be hot.
So
Yeah.
humid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And that and that honestly is what's held me back from
You know,
it.
I'd rather be cold any day.
Yeah,
You
me
said that
too.
about North Carolina, Michelle. I remember.
I live about as far south as possible for me, and I'm in Pennsylvania. I don't think I could survive for in the heat. But he asked my favorite warbler. Um
He's laughing in the chat.
yeah,
He is
that's
laughing.
that's tough. I like Maggie's. I like magnolia warblers. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I just they're so gorgeous. I like the morning warbler. That was a tough one. Like when I finally saw a morning warbler, that was like, wow.
Yeah, I have not seen that one. We have a great migration through a little area here, just 10 minutes from me. I have not seen that one.
Yeah, hooded warbler,
Yeah,
black-burnian
those are
warbler.
pretty.
I
Those are
could just
pretty.
black-throated blue, black-throated green, like
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
there are.
I got to get the hockey puck thing going already for spring. I got to get.
Listen, I
Did you
I need
understand? You get to watch hockey.
I need a filter when I'm photographing. I need like there is a lot of cursing under my breath whenever I'm shooting them.
It is frustrating.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think that's what moved me from I had the Tamron 150 to 600, and I just was so frustrated with that thing that it moved me to the next lens quickly because I just couldn't. I needed it for birds, and I just couldn't get it to.
You got that
probably with me.
now. Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's do the speed round. So let's be fun. So you saw that ahead of time. We have 6 questions, and we'll just Michelle, do you want to go back and forth? I'll do one. We'll just go every.
I'll do 2. Yeah. All right, let's get her. All right.
All right.
Okay, Traci, we're gonna gang up on you. What's in your camera bag you can't do without?
Okay. So aside from the obvious, the gear.
Yes.
I gotta have a rain cover in there.
Okay.
A cleaning kit. You know, even if it's just a rocket blower to blow stuff off the end. Lip balm, chapstick.
Yes. Yep.
And I have this little crossbody like tech bag that a lot of times if I'm going to be hiking with my gear, I'll tripod mount my lens, or if it's a 100 or 500, I'll put the strap on. But that little tech bag, I'm able to put batteries, memory cards, cell phone, keys.
Yeah.
And it's just a very small little.
That's a good idea.
Crossbody, so I don't have to lug my big bag.
That's a good idea.
And I can just keep it on me. It just stays on me.
Yeah.
What is something in your camera bag that you never use, but you always have it with you?
That stupid 17 to 40. That lens every time, like, and I look at it in my bag and like, why are you there? Like, why?
But you remember Traci wants to sell that thing.
I do. Anybody message me if you're comfortable with that wide angle, that 17 to 40, man. I can't.
I am, but you've got the wrong gear. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know, and that's why I know. It's just So it's the 17 to 40.
Okay, favorite snack while editing or driving around to find wildlife?
Boonie, when she's booning.
When she's boonie cruising.
The go-to for boonie cruising.
Boonie cruising, that's it. I got to get that right.
T-shirt.
Yep. Boonie cruising, yes. The go-to for boonie cruising is peanut butter and jelly.
Okay.
And
Jenny Cannon will like that because she loves the little, what are they called?
Lunchables.
Crustables.
Oh, those
Uncrustables. Yes.
Yeah, and Jenny's still on.
Yeah. So peanut butter and jelly, because it doesn't need a refrigerator. You don't need a cooler for it. I usually have a bag. I love Fuji apples. I am an apple snob. So Fuji apples.
I think that's what Steve Mathis said too. That's hilarious.
Peanut butter and jelly and cold brew. I got to have coffee. If I don't have my afternoon coffee, nothing's going good. So if I know I'm not going to be near anything or not able to hit a drive-through, I get a bottle of the Stoke espresso roast cold brew, and I just drink it right out of there.
Nice. Jenny Cannon says soul sisters.
Yes. Yes. That's great.
What is a photography experience that made you laugh out loud just every time when you think about it?
So this was like a blooper moment for myself. I knew someone who had a fox den on their property, and I had permission to photograph the foxes there. And I went up once and had a great, experience. And then I was going back up the field was full of these beautiful yellow little flowers, and right outside the woodlot where their den was. And I just had these visions of this beautiful thing happening. And they had set up a blind for me
Oh, how nice.
to sit in, which was just awesome. Yeah. And it was a nice blind. And I get in there early in the afternoon, earlier than I needed to be because I didn't want to disturb anything.
Right.
So I set up in this blind and I'm watching the light change. It's getting lower and it's beautiful and those little yellow flowers. And the fox comes to the edge of the woodlot and she sits there. This gust of wind blew across that field.
Oh no.
It lifted that freaking blind straight up out of the ground.
I knew it was coming. Like as soon as she said that, I knew it was coming.
It blew it behind me. And I am sitting there feeling naked and exposed in the middle
That's a
of
different
this
show.
It's a different show. It's a
It's a different show.
different show. But I am sitting there on this little stool
Oh,
behind my camera, my tripod, and this fox was like out of there.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, dang it. And I was stubborn. I laughed my butt off. I was like, oh my God, this is just crazy. And it just got windy from that point on. And I was like, I drove an hour to get here and it's over before it started. And you have to laugh at those things because it was hilarious. I mean, I was just sitting there in those. But I went up to the edge of the woods on the opposite side and I just sat there and
Pouted.
pouted. I was trying to will this fox to come back out. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
when I sit there for like an hour, maybe things will calm down and she'll come back out. But no, she was
Yeah,
on to me.
she was
She
done.
wasn't coming.
She wasn't having it at that point. She's like, I don't know what that was, but
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
She didn't like it one bit.
Oh, that's bad.
It
Oh,
was bad. Yeah.
oh. Well, is there a moment that made you cry, happy tears, or sad? I'm sure there's moments. We all see those.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's an emotional thing, like
It is.
there's that time when, you're photographing, Rena was with me. We're photographing these great gray owls and there's nobody else on this road. And there's like 6 owls, like hunting this field, this tiny little field right in front of us.
Wow.
And we just had this moment where we're like, is this happening? This is
Mhm.
nuts.
Mhm,
And you're
mhm.
like, you're emotional, you're like teary.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I think, when you're sharing an experience with someone for the first time, like, a couple of the ladies on my tours and, I get teary, like happy for them.
Yes.
Like you're so happy that something happened, the bear came by or the owl, they got to see the great gray owl for the first time. And that's,
Mhm, mhm.
I don't know. I think that's kind of a, as a happy tears. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it's like the veil of like is just kind of pulled away for a minute and you get to see the magic.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that.
so cool.
I
So
love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got our last question, and it may be about a great gray owl, but what with your soul? Like, what is that moment that you're just like, I am in the right spot at the right time, and this
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, I don't know. Like when an owl looks at you, you feel it, right? It looks at you and I feel like there is a keen alertness to them and they look at you and it kind of pierces you. It kind of like, it's just, I don't know. You feel
Very
it.
cool.
Personal.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what are your future plans, Traci? What are your future goals coming up in 2025, 2026? It sounds like 2026 already you have some plans.
I
So,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
A 25, I'm going to Iceland.
Oh, Michelle. That's
With-
Michelle's
there.
place.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's just there. I love it.
Yeah.
going with
That 14, no, the 17 to
40. Yeah, yeah.
Girl,
Are you
That-
telling me I have to take that?
you have to take that. You're going to use it.
Oh my God.
You just found a reason for that lens in that bag.
Yay.
Yeah, so I'm going to Iceland with Scott, Jackie, and Josh and Cassie.
Oh, fun.
So I'm excited about that. I haven't said that out loud because I still can't believe it's happening, and it is.
That is so fun.
It's something I'm like, is that actually happening? And it is, and I'm just
It's not a dream.
super grateful and excited about that.
Yeah.
I have a couple tours with still some open seats with women in wildlife photography. We have a couple seats on one of our bear tours. So, if you want to go there with me, ladies, come on, let's go. So I have that, and I think there's a moose tour up out of Anchorage, and then Nome.
Oh, wow. Wow, wonderful.
We have 3 seats left on Nome, and that's going to be the first week of September. The autumn color should be fantastic.
Yeah.
Muskox, maybe Northern Lights. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to continue. I need to get back to my local shooting. I need to get back to that and exploring my local areas more.
Yeah.
I need to get back to shooting more regularly.
I feel the same. I have the same thing happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you need to do this. Like, this is, so I need to get back to that. I want to work on being better, challenging myself, maybe getting better.
Yeah. It's hard when life is going quickly and you have a lot of responsibilities with work and family and all that. It's hard to keep that up.
It really is. And I get cranky if a couple weeks go by and I haven't, and I can tell. I can just feel myself, feeling a certain sort of way.
Yeah. Yep.
And you just need to make that time for yourself.
That's right.
I
start missing nature, start missing that feel of that camera in my hand and the shooting. I just miss it. Yeah.
And it's that connection. And it goes back to what Michelle just said. When she said she's doing these drills in the dark.
Yeah.
Like she's out there ninja. That's your muscle memory. The more when you're shooting, it's automatic then. You don't think about it. And that comes from your local shooting.
It does.
And then you don't get out and you're on maybe a trip and you haven't shot locally and you're kind of out of practice a little bit. And then you have something awesome happen and you're looking at your camera like a stranger, right? Because you haven't used it. So,
right. Yeah. But that local practice translates over.
It really does.
It creates that foundation when you are in a new situation. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yep. So tell people where they can find you, Traci. Where can people now find you on your socials and everywhere else?
I'm TL Sepkovic on Instagram, Traci Sepkovic on Facebook. My website is I need to kind of dump it and start all over. That's
another time thing.
That's another show too.
Yes.
It is. Yes. It really is. I need to self-audit that website and get rid of some crap. But it's TL Sepkovic Photography.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I am.
People go follow Traci, and you sell prints, I'm sure. We just saw people that have your prints.
Yeah, I do. I actually that's another thing I'm working on, is making it friendly for purchasing.
Yeah.
Because I had a display that I gave my notice on. I'm taking it down because it just doesn't get the traffic.
Yeah.
And actually this behind me,
which is beautiful.
This wall and this big thing I've taken down,
Speaking of the elk.
Yeah, I've taken it down. So it's expensive to keep freshening up your inventory.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, so it's not productive for me to keep buying these large prints to have on the display, because you need those large prints to draw people in.
Right.
And it just, so I'm working on something that will be more friendly for purchase.
Yeah, that's good. Well, everyone follow Traci, buy a print from her, think about her workshops and tours she's doing over the next 2 years. And Traci, I just appreciate everything you said about humility, your local spot, the beginner tips you shared with us. We gained so much wisdom just listening to you. And Michelle, thank you so much for adding to that. Your wisdom is always appreciated and wanted, and just I love it too. I'm so glad you got to join me again. I really appreciate both of you. I just feel like
This is great.
This is what this community is about, and we hear so many of the same themes coming through that we just don't get to hear on social media. So I'm glad we got to talk about this, and I just appreciate both of you so much. Traci, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks for having
and
me.
Giving us your photography story and your tips. I really appreciate it. And I will have this up, hopefully everyone, tomorrow on Apple and Spotify and hopefully YouTube. If you saw me here working on it, it's quite hilarious. I am getting the time period down, what it takes me to get everything put together. But I hope to have it on YouTube tomorrow as well. And if you could follow my YouTube channel, I would love to get it to 500. I know that's like silly. I feel silly asking that. But I would love to see that grow and have more people see that Wildlife Conversations there. So if you have time to go over and hit that button on YouTube, please do that. I feel like I'm my 16-year-old, like and subscribe.
You know what? I want to add to that, Jen, because I've watched all of your episodes, and there are people like I followed Michelle, but I've never met Michelle.
Right.
And I'm listening to Michelle talk, and I'm like, I love this lady.
I know.
Everything she's saying is resonating with me.
Yes.
And Maureen and Jenny, and
that's right.
Scott and Jackie, obviously, like, how do you not love these people, right?
I know.
So I think it's such a great thing that you're doing this, because
thank you.
It reveals, like, you're not just an account on Instagram or Facebook, right?
Right.
So I feel like I've gotten to know some of the people like Steve and Lydia too, that, that I follow. And when you hear them talk, I really appreciated that.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I've really enjoyed doing this. This is our 7th episode, and we're booked out through May. So people will be on it, and people are just, it's so joyful to me when I ask someone and they're like, me? And I'm like, yes, you. I want to hear your story. And that's why we're doing this, because I feel like so many people have a story and they aren't asked, and sometimes we can feel invisible. And so hopefully this can just build this community bigger and bigger. And I agree with you. I feel like I love seeing people's faces and hearing their stories, and it just makes the world a little smaller. We all speak the same language, so it's really fun. It's really fun.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining me for episode 7. And Traci and Michelle, thank you again. It was so fun. And I hope everyone will join me for David Duchemin, January 8th. I am so excited about that.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I hope that I am not a fangirl the whole time. I'm going to have to do some meditation exercises beforehand. Deep breaths, because it is one of those moments where those small actionable steps that you take for years, like the little magic gets sprinkled in and something amazing happens. So hopefully I'll hold it together, but I hope everybody comes and registers for that as well. But I just appreciate you both so much. And thank you everyone for watching, and have a great holiday too. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Booty cruising tomorrow.